one podcast, mining the Magic the Gathering subreddits for salt. This is the Howling Salt Mine.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Howling Salt Mine podcast, the podcast where we are delving into the salty minds of the Magic the Gathering subreddits, trying to find those salty posts and then bringing them to you, our listener. And also, we're getting those salty letters, those salt-encrusted letters coming to us from you to the mine.
Encrusted
They are.
It's like
We're chiseling them out.
yeah.
And reading those salty stories. As always, I am your host, Sam, and I'm joined with my co-host, Tony. Say hey, Tony.
Hey, co-hostess with the mostest.
You certainly are this week.
Yep.
Yeah, Mike's not here with us this week. He is like, I think he has like another wedding or something that he's going to. I feel like he's been to like 5 weddings in the last
Fucking
1 month.
wedding boy, Mr.
Yeah.
Popular over here.
I guess so.
Well, fuck him.
Yeah.
Why wasn't I his +1? That's the real question.
And why wasn't I his +2?
Yeah. Like, for real. I feel like you and I would be great +1s for him. I know Mika's around, but we'd put out. It'd be fine.
Yeah,
be
dude.
good.
Totally.
A good night. And I fucking slay on the dance floor.
Yeah, like you and I, if anyone out there needs 2 people to make your wedding like a million times better, Tony and I will literally dance all night on the dance floor. I will dance until I'm like injured.
Dude, same. I literally am known as a hype man at the weddings I go to.
Yeah.
Although I do
awesome.
have to give it to Caroline, Sam's wife, who
wife.
actually broke her foot at a wedding dancing. Was it at the turn down the what? And she just
it was turned down for what? And she like jumped up in the air and came down and just like broke her foot.
Fucking amazing.
She will hate that I'm talking about this, but she doesn't listen to the podcast. So
Hey.
oh man. Yeah, that
man.
was oh man.
Whose wedding was that?
That was our friend Scott's wedding.
Oh,
Who Tony and I used
right.
to sing with in college.
Hell yeah. In that mystical quartet that if y'all find,
Yeah.
good on you.
Yeah, good on you if you
that's
can
good
find the
internet
videos
skills.
of it. Yeah. Please don't dox us. Okay.
I do want to know if you find it though, because
Yeah, I actually
you're
true.
good at the internet if you found it.
Yeah, if you find it, keep it to yourself. It's like a
It's an achievement.
yeah, exactly. It's like
Achievement
finding
unlocked.
a golden ticket, you know? Like
Yeah.
like you're not going to go share it with a bunch of people. You're just going to bring your one weird grandpa and get killed by candy. I don't know. The metaphor is totally crumbling at this point.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so it's just the 2 of us today, and we're going to be
That's the two of us. We can make it.
we try. You and I. It's going to be a lot of
I
impromptu
was gonna
singing.
say, Mike's like not here to stop us from singing, so like
Yeah, just means we get to be like unhinged little goblins over here. This is a Sam and Tony app. We're
This is
keeping the
pure
crazy
gold.
shit. Yeah, everything stays.
In that case, Mike fucking sucks.
Look how much fun we have when he's not here.
It's so much better when Mike's not around. Right, Sam? Right?
Yeah. Look how nice
Okay,
I'm being to
good.
Tony. When Mike is here, I have to be mean to Tony as part of like the comedy thing, but Mike makes me do it.
Oh, what a fucking dick.
I know. He texts me beforehand and he's like, "Are you ready?" And I'm like, "Do I really have to this time?" And he's like, "Dude, you know you have to." And I'm like, "Come on, man." Then he makes me do it.
Every time. Oh, man. So,
let's get into it. Let's talk about some salty posts, huh? Let's do it.
but Sam, what the fuck is salt?
Great question, Tony.
Thank
I'm glad you asked it. Salt is frustrations in the game. You know, it's when someone sits down to your pre-con game with a CDH deck and pub stomps you. It's when someone says, "I'm just playing a 7," and they open with a Savannah, a Mana Crypt, and just fucking start like blasting down stacks pieces.
It's a tropical island into a mystic remora.
Oh yeah.
Or a mana crypt 2, and instead they're hitting a whatchamacallit, a Ristic study turn 1. Because as we know, blue is a trash color for trash players.
Salt is also, it's just when like things don't match up with power levels and it feels bad, or maybe you feel like you weren't very strong at the table, but other people are perceiving you as a threat for some reason and going in on you. There's a lot of things that cause frustrations in this lovely game that we treasure and enjoy.
Yeah, for realsies.
We're going to talk about them. We're going to fucking talk about some of that shit today.
Hell yeah.
Motherfuckers. Mike isn't around, so we could swear as much as we want. Piss.
Right into it. That's what I like.
Yeah,
Love that.
just getting right in there.
Well,
and let's get right in there.
hell yeah. Seamless transition. We're fucking pros here.
Yeah, we're crushing it. So we are going to kick this off with a Reddit post. And this one comes to us from the EDH subreddit from user Rannis the Slayer. If you see them, give them an upvote, spread that goodwill. The post is titled, Understanding Players Who Enjoy Making Others Miserable.
I like that as a start.
Yeah, it's a heavy topic.
Yeah.
And the post goes, I'm a member of a certain extremely large Facebook group for Commander. I joined it some years ago because the professor mentioned it in one of his videos, so I thought I'd give it a go and lurk. These days, it feels like an endless sea of people asking for how to make decks that make their opponents miserable. Today, there was a certain post asking for strategies around not upsetting opponents with their strategies, and general mentality of comments are such as, fuck etiquette, welcome to the Thunderdome. Commander is at least where I play cutthroat as it gets. You start politics, we're going to politic. You play combo, we play combo. It's not tea time for me. I like making it as miserable as possible for my opponents. If you want etiquette, go to a tea party.
Oh my God. Wow.
Or other comments like, nothing. If it's legal, it's fair game. Anyone that would disagree with you is just a crybaby. Play all the MLD, play all the stacks. Just don't get salty when you get targeted down. That's our general rule of thumb in my group.
Is this your group, Sam?
It's me. And then the post keeps going. What makes people enjoy causing their opponents to have a bad time? Why would you spend thousands of dollars on this hobby, this format, just to make other people have a bad time? You can do that for free. I love that justification.
How true. Wow. There's a bit to unpack there.
Just to shoot for an answer of that question up top, why do players enjoy this? I think there's just something about making other people like tilted and frustrated that can be like funny and enjoyable, I mean, I think people can get that on like a level with their friends sometimes. Like, if you're beating your friend in a video game and like trash talking a little bit, like that can be fun, and it often is fun. Like we do that in our group and it's like really funny and we're all laughing and like kind of getting a rise out of a person and it's kind of all in good fun. And then some people don't stop at their friend group with that stuff and they do it to like strangers in real life and they think it's really funny when people get mad. But the thing when you do it with your friends is it's like, you're still friends. When you do it with a random person, you're just like an unhinged dickhead.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think you're definitely on to something there because I feel like I almost think of it in like video games too. When given the option, everyone likes to choose the dark ending or choose to play like the villain for some portion of the game. And like that's kind of the villain of this game, right? Like all those different things that make people really upset. Like they're definitely like vilified in that sense. And so I think people just fucking get off to it. They're like, oh yeah, like I could see them writhing in their chair.
Yeah.
Like as I'm building the deck. And it's like I like it. I like that feeling. It's dark and it's unknown to a lot of us, but like it's there. Everyone's got a little bit of it in their soul, but some let it rise to the top, you know?
Yeah, I mean it's true, man. You know, some people do love that stuff. And like if the game is right, I fucking love that shit, man.
I was gonna
Like,
say
it's
Sam's
great.
trying not to identify too closely because as a strong stacks player, he's like fucking loves that feeling when a stacks piece hits support.
Oh, dude, I mean, yeah, you caught me. Like stacks, I do love playing stacks, and there's nothing like dropping a stacks piece and just seeing like the light leave your friend's eyes. Like, but the key there is I have told you that I'm playing a stacks deck and you know it's coming, you know. It's another thing when you're like surprising random people out in the wild and being like, hey, I'm gonna like force this experience on you. At least you know what you're getting into when I bust out like my Marath stacks deck in a CDH game, you know.
For sure. Yeah, I know that you're just gonna like try and go off and not win, and it's fine.
Yeah, I'm just gonna try to drag the game out as long as possible, you know, because that's fun for me, and that's all that matters. Number one.
Exactly. They do kind of point to that fact, I think, at one stage in the post where it's like they said like those are the rules in this like meta.
Yeah.
If I sit down to play and everybody's like, yeah, we're gonna play a casual game, like I got nothing crazy going on, and then they're whipping out like fucking annoying ass stacks and all that bullshit, then I'm like, all right, fuck you.
Yeah.
But if they like at least say it beforehand, I'm not mad at them in the moment. You know, I'm like, all right, well, you said you're going to do it and now you're doing it. So like, I can't be that mad because I elected to play with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is a really funny thing in this post. That like second example says like, play all the MLD, play all the stacks, just don't get salty when you get targeted down. And then it says, that's our general rule in my group. It's like, oh, interesting. You're basically starting that thing off. And I think these are, you know, somewhat hyperbolic. I don't know if they're direct quotes. I don't think that they are, but
yeah,
they're starting off this example saying like, there's no fucking rules. Whatever's legal is fair game. And then at the end, they're like, those are the rules that my group has agreed to.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people don't make that connection. Like a lot of these people who do want the Thunderdome, they do want it to just be like super cutthroat. Like you have probably in some way come to that agreement with your group. Like that is an agreement, you know, that like you did it. You already made that and your group decided on that. Doesn't mean everyone did.
For sure. I gotta highlight this quick though. If I ever sit down and I'm like, welcome to the Thunderdome, I've done it right. Like, I'm living. If I can ever sit down at a table and just be like, look at people seriously in the eye and be like, welcome to the Thunderdome. Like, what is your deck that you would sit down and like say that with?
Oh man. I don't know.
I'm hoping it's my new deck actually.
Yeah.
That would be the most like welcome to the Thunderdome deck. I'm building like a.
Hey, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I'll be talking about it a little bit, not like a ton, but like I'm gonna build this Yearlock of Scorched Thrash deck that is like it's mana burn. So like back in the day, it used to be that if you didn't spend mana and you had it in your mana pool, you would take fucking damage for it. And then I don't know when they ruled it out, or were like, this is stupid. Probably when people started doing broken stuff and tapping other people's lands and they couldn't spend it. And then like they were like, oh, you die to mana burn. I think there was like some really powerful decks in like the beginning of Magic's time doing that kind of stuff. And so they like kind of got rid of mana burn. But relatively recently, they printed a card that like reintroduces it as a commander.
I think it was Commander Legends, right?
I think so. I think you're right. Yeah, it was Commander Legends. But basically the creature like taps and adds mana to everyone's mana pool. And so my hope is to like untap a billion times and like fucking mana burn everyone down. But also it's going to have a lot of stacks pieces that are tolerable. So it's like you have to pay life for things.
Yeah, more like tax pieces, like strictly tax.
Exactly. So it's like people will have to pay life to use mana, like mana barbs, some of these like older cards that have a little bit of a janky templating. And then also there's somewhere it's like, if a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, tap all lands they control. So it's like you still get all that mana, but now you have to spend it at like the beginning of your turn, right? As opposed to like being able to keep things up. So it'll be not as bad, but it's definitely the kind of deck I feel like I could sit down and be like, welcome to the Thunderdome.
Welcome to the Thunderdome.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of my super powerful decks are either not something that interacts enough with my opponents to give that Thunderdome vibe, like Gave, for example. Gave, like, I just like am doing my own shit. You know, it's a powerful deck, but
yeah,
like,
but your own shit is winning. You're
Yeah,
just
I mean-
winning in like a couple turns.
it wins hard and
I
fast.
think you could say welcome to the Thunderdome with that one too.
Also, don't come at me for pronouncing it like Gave. If you pronounce it like Gave, you are an insane person. And you're wrong.
Has someone added you for that?
Truthfully, that is how it's supposed to be pronounced, is Gave.
Oh, really?
Isn't that horrible? Like Dave.
It is.
Like
I have
Dave
never
with a
called
G.
it that, but I don't know if it's because you called it that, and so I've always called it that.
I just feel like the name needs to be more fantastical, like Gave, you know?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, that sounds way more fantastical.
Yeah.
Gave, like
Gave is awful. Gave sounds like your weird neighbor that lives upstairs or something.
yeah.
Lives in like the basement of your apartment building.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, that deck could be Thunderdome in that it's like, can you stop me from popping off and winning? Maybe my Roger Arden deck, because it is like really aggressive.
Yeah.
And much like Thunderdome, I'm like grabbing chainsaws off the walls and just like fucking coming at people with a ton of equipment.
I'm just imagining when I hear that, like I'm gonna feel some kind of pain when this deck comes down. And so like those are the kinds of decks I classify as welcome to the Thunderdome.
I feel like Rafiq is gently in that category. Like Rafiq doesn't really pop off hard. He just, at some point, I just knock someone out in a single hit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like I'm envisioning the Thunderdome. It's kind of almost like Ratchet and Clank in my head.
Yeah.
Which is a great old school video game. It's like one of the fighting arenas, and like, you know, you've got all these like crazy opponents, and there's like a teddy bear in the corner, and you're like, oh, why is that here? So you're messing with everything else, and all of a sudden you turn around, the teddy bear's like a fucking grizzly bear with a chainsaw, and you're dead. You turned around because it's like gutting you.
Yeah.
And so like that's Rafiq in my mind in the Thunderdome.
Well, that's the beauty of Rafiq, is that if I start focusing on another opponent, I'm not your problem until that opponent's dead. You know?
Yeah.
Like if I start attacking Mike, like generally speaking, you and Nick aren't going to come for me.
Oh yeah. That's why I'm just sitting there crossing my fingers, because the first bit of damage it'll only be like 4 or so.
But it dictates who I'm going to go for.
Exactly. Because then the next hit is usually for like 17, which is not enough to one-shot someone else. So it's like, well, guess the person who's marked, I gotta like kill him.
My favorite thing with that deck is when I can use it politically, where I'm like, guys, just let me resolve some of these spells and I can take that arch enemy out. And everyone's like, yeah, do it, Sam. And then I do it, and it's like I turn around with a loaded gun and I'm like, now for you.
Literally. Should we full circle? What do you think about the salt rating on this post?
Oh man, the salt is real. I mean, it's one of those things where like people giving these comments on the internet, I don't know if they truly feel that way in real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like part of me thinks that it's kind of being hyperbolic, and sometimes people use the internet and being anonymous as an excuse to like kind of be a little bit of a crazier version of themselves, or a little bit of a wilder version of themselves. Maybe that's what's going on here. But, you know, there truthfully are some people out there that just do love to see other people have a bad time, and they get a lot of joy out of that. I might feel that way with my friends sometimes, but I never really feel that way with strangers. That's like I think we've talked about it before, where we'll all be super salty when we're playing against each other, and then I'm like really polite when I play with strangers. Unless Tony and I are on a stream together, then we become like unhinged. And we're just like swearing and attacking each other and getting super salty.
Well, I get, but that's almost like a comforting factor, right? Of it's like, well, I know Sam, so I'll attack Sam.
Totally. And then I'm like, what, you gonna attack me?
We do it because we love each other, even though it sounds like we fucking hate each other. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah, it's so true.
It's coming hot.
What do you think about this salty post?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's like real salt. Like I've felt that salt. But I think the most important thing that we touch on here is like the knowledge of what's going to happen.
Yeah. Being
aware is always what eliminates that salt for me. So I feel like anytime I'm playing with new players, I'm always pretty good about that. within my own pod, I'm probably pretty bad at that. I'm just like, this deck does like a thing. I think like it'll hopefully work. I feel like half the time is because I don't really know, because I feel like I only play new decks with you guys, so it's like at the time I don't know it's gonna fuck you all up, and then it does.
It's because you don't goldfish your decks. You don't realize that it's gonna pop off on turn 4 and kill all of us.
Totally true. Like I literally, I'm like goldfishing. What's that fucking shit? It works or it doesn't. And I have had a few times where like I've made a new deck and it just like didn't work.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so when that happens, I either get rid of the deck or I change it. But that's the only time I edit a deck.
I feel like your Zabaz deck only just worked for the first time ever. Like you'd played it a couple other times and you were like, this deck is bad.
Yeah.
And you finally popped off.
Yeah. I didn't know what was happening either. And that was part of the problem. But we already talked about that. So we won't talk about that.
Yeah, refer to some previous episode, whichever the one that was.
Yeah.
Well, to Rannis the Slayer, just keep doing your own thing. The internet is a wide and vast ocean with many different types of fish in it. And some of those fish are the asshole fish, and they're just going to be like a dickhead randomly. And also some people like to be like acting tough, that they don't give a fuck and don't give a shit about the rules. And those are also probably the same people that try to pub stomp. And when you like remove anything of theirs, they flip out and walk out of the store. So,
for real.
It's the way it goes.
Another
one. So this is a salty story that we got from one of our patrons, patreon.com/howlingsaltmine. Come on in, join. We got a little Discord. We got extra episodes every month. Little extra content from us. You can listen to the Lost episode. It's only $7 a month. If you like the show, you want us to keep doing it and make it better, then think about it. And this story comes to us from our buddy Vok.
Hey,
what up, dude?
What is the up?
And this story is titled, "Am I the Asshole? Maybe." And it goes, Salty Counsel. I have a friend I play with weekly. He's a coworker that we invite out to our LGS. His most played decks are Slivers, 2 different Sliver decks. And he also has a Sir Conrad and a Nethroi Apex of Death deck, all of which are fairly strong, especially for our meta. As a group of friends, we decided to try something new recently. We all got assigned a color. It was given to us based off our least favorite color decided by the group. And the goal was to make a monocolored deck with a budget of less than $100. Sounds kind of like our Secret Santa thing that we just did.
Yeah.
So he showed up with a red goblin deck headed by Krenko, mob boss. It immediately gave me nostalgia to my first deck, but I know better than to let a goblin deck slide. I had been assigned green, so I made a Finn the Fangbearer deck. Oh man,
baby.
2 very powerful decks here.
Yeah.
Or 2 very powerful commanders. Very early on, he started popping off. I dumped my hand in order to kill him, which caused me to eventually lose the game. We continued playing games, and he didn't win a single one that night. As we were leaving, I thought, I don't remember the last time he won a game. I asked a mutual friend of ours, and they said, I don't either. You usually pub stomp him out first every game. Oh no, Vok.
Oh dear.
That upset me because I don't ever try to pub stomp. I am actively against it. But I'm known to build strong decks. I'll build it, play it, figure out it's too strong for the meta, and then retire it or bust them out occasionally just for a good old 3v1. I have a bag of decks I don't play, 9 right now, that just sit in a bag that I don't bring to the LGS. The question is, am I unfairly targeting him, or am I using proper threat assessment to eliminate the prime target? If left unchecked, he would win every time, in my opinion. Or does him building decks that are strong give justification for him to be targeted, and I just happen to be the source of his demise?
Oh man, I feel like that's Nick's problem.
Yeah, it sort of is.
Like in our meta, like Nick builds really strong decks, but he loses a lot of the time because we always focus him out because he builds these decks that were like, if you let it go unchecked, you just lose. Like,
yeah,
all of his decks kind of play in a similar play pattern, and I feel like he tends to come out the gate first. I think recently he's thought about that a lot because he knew it was a big problem and has like changed how he played and like maybe how some of his more recent decks build to counteract that. But it's kind of the interesting question of like, does this person have the forethought to like know that that's happening, or do they just feel like they're getting targeted and like feel bad? Because you're probably doing the right thing, right? Because a Krenko deck left unchecked will annihilate the table.
Definitely.
But you know, how do you find the way to strike the balance to either say it out loud, like maybe that's like a way to be like, hey, like your deck's super cool, but it's also super powerful, so I'm gonna kill you.
I do wonder if that's an element of it. Like, you know, this question's sort of like, it kind of makes me think of like, how do you rise up beyond the reputation you have in a play group? You know, it's sort of like what you're talking about with Nick. Like Nick has this reputation of making powerful decks. We focus him down. This guy has a reputation of making really powerful decks. And it's coupled with seeing a commander that you know is powerful, especially when you've piloted, that you know is really strong. Like if I came up against somebody playing agave deck, I would be like, okay, like that needs to be dealt with, you know?
Yeah, for
like
sure.
No one plays agave deck because they're going to do like value sapperling strategies. Or maybe some people do, but very, very few. And like nobody plays Krenko Mob Boss without wanting to make like a metric fuck ton of goblins, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Part of me does wonder if like the outcome would have been different if this Krenko, if you only use like a little bit of removal on this Krenko player. Like Vox said that they dumped their hand in order to kill him. And it sort of makes me think like, okay, well, what if you just drop like 1 or 2 removal pieces and then sort of let the Krenko player snowball up a bit more and become a problem? Like worst case, you lose the game, right?
Yeah.
Worst case, you lose the game, but now everybody knows that that deck is like a menace and needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
Best case, they become a bit of a menace on board. Everybody sees it, and then they kind of pile on that person.
But also best case, you get to like win. Because
totally.
He like said it cost him the game because he dumped like his hand to like take out this other player. Right?
That's a good point too. Like that kind of play to win mentality. Like at a certain point, you sacrifice your own ability to win to make someone else lose. And, you know, it could be circumstance, like who knows what's really going on with like the details of the game. But to me, that moment speaks of like, maybe you went too far and you could have done less. I also wonder if the Krenko player had become more of an obvious threat and the other 2 people at the table were like, yo, that deck is a problem. Now you don't have to use as much removal to deal with it. Now that perception of you like pub stomping someone out isn't really there.
Yeah.
Like if we played a game and you just started focusing me like crazy because I was playing Rafik or something, and everyone else was like, what are you doing? Versus me getting really powerful and like doing a big move on the table, and then you're like, oh shit, everybody, this needs to be dealt with, and now everyone's attacking me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And in fairness, I totally get the snowball thing, because the problem is like usually by the time the rest of the table gets it, it's kind of too late. That's my favorite style of deck to try and build. Which I feel like is what I usually try and do, is where it's like I get to a board state where it's like it doesn't seem like much, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, no, this is a problem, but like I just have too many pieces to remove and be stopped. Like
you are good at building those decks, right? And that is, I think that's one of the reasons why your win rate is so high, because those decks, they don't have obvious moments where it's like, oh shit, this is the moment that needs to be dealt with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Rafine is a really good example where it's like, okay, Tony's making some like kind of shitty tokens. Okay, you like pumped one up to like a 4/4. He's got like 3 tokens. And then a couple turns go by and you're like, oh shit, like his stuff's getting really big. He's doing like graveyard shenanigans.
It's getting big. He's drawing 5 cards a turn.
Yeah, he's like just cycling through his deck like crazy. And it's like, okay, like this is a problem. But now I either have to remove Rafine, the Bitter Blossom that's making the tokens that's enabling your deck, or this like 7/7 fairy token that
it's
is also a problem.
And like, yeah,
is also definitely a problem. And it's like all these different pieces. And I'm sure with Krenko, there's a point where there's like a point of no return where it's like, hey, I got to knock this person out. or it's just going to be too far. I think every once in a while, there is a greater advantage to letting a powerful piece land or to let an opponent pop off in a powerful way, because what it does is it shifts the group's perception. You know, like if you knock out Krenko before it gets powerful, like we all know Krenko is powerful, but being able to see the potential of the deck actually pop off, now everybody like has experienced it, you know, and the next time maybe you lose that first game against Krenko, but you're not going to lose the second or the third because now all three players are focused on stopping that one person. You know what I mean?
For
and
sure.
I think sometimes you just let that person run. I like to do that, especially if I'm like, yo, Nick is the problem. And you and Mike are like, no, I don't think he is. I'll just be like, cool, I'm not going to waste my removal. I'll let Nick become a bigger problem. And then we'll all realize that he's a problem and we need to deal with him.
Yeah. Yeah. That is the thing. Like, kind of, I think the real thing you're getting at is almost just like, just let it happen.
Yeah, let it happen.
If you're fearing that you're either getting a reputation for something like that, or you actively know it's happening, just fucking let it happen a few times, and then pretty soon everyone else, you're right. Like,
yeah,
I feel like that happened with me with Bruvac constantly.
Oh yeah,
I was scared of the mill deck, and so I would always attack it, which made me always targeted first. And so Sam and Mike were never, they were like, he's not even targeting us. Like, we don't care if it Bruvac's milling, like whatever. And so I got myself into this vicious cycle of like, I should have just let things lie, because then Nick wouldn't have felt so obligated to target me. And I would have like been able to get some more sympathy from the table if they like felt some more of the pain. And like now I feel like we have all like gotten milled pretty hard by it. It's like there's way more fear in like our meta when it does come down.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if, you know, it's not in the post, but I wonder if this situation with Vok and the Krenko player turned into something where, you know, he went hard with the Finn deck and was just like crushing into Krenko. And the Krenko player was like, fuck you, man. I'm going to come right back at you twice as hard. And maybe that led to him dying. And I think you do open yourself up to like that sort of retribution, and it's justified. You know, if someone's coming at you, you gotta go back at them.
Never let it die. Swing at them until you lose the game for it.
If you do it too early, the other two people are just like, sweet, I'm cool back here. I'm just gonna coast.
Yeah,
like I'll let you guys fucking do it. Like that happens a lot in our pod where a feud breaks out and the other two people are just like, I'm chilling. I'll just wait for this to be done.
I feel like we've all gotten or tried to get a little bit better about that. But now what happens is it's like someone swings at someone for 1, and then someone else swings at someone for 4 because someone swung at them for 1. And so the person that got hit is now like, all right, well, you hit me for a bigger number, so now I'm going to hit you again, because that like makes sense. So it's still happening, even though like it used to just be that it was me. I would have a blood feud and I'd be like, I'm swinging at this person until they're dead. And now it just almost happens more naturally, but it's still because like, so it's an interesting dynamic we've created. No one's the bigger person in our meta is what I'm trying to say.
Totally. No one is. And we also have this dynamic now that I'm noticing where we try to draw attention to people's decks way too early. Like I'll be playing Alesha and I'll drop out like some card that is good, but isn't good right now with my board state. And someone will be like, oh, Sam is setting up. That's going to be a problem over there. We got to deal with that now. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything. And then because they're pointing at me, I'm like, well, fuck you. I'm going to like start attacking you. And that like kicks a feud off, you know?
Yeah. For sure. The problem almost is like, because we have such an insulated meta, like with someone with like Alesha, any card you play, we're going to be like, oh, he's going to get General's Enforcer out. And then like we lose the game, which isn't totally true, but it's sort of true. Like,
or it's like, oh, I remember that one time when that one card did a really powerful thing. And now I'm afraid of it. And it's well, like I'm not really doing anything with it right now, but like I understand where you're coming from, but I'm not doing anything right now. Like you give me a minute.
What do we think about the salt rating here?
You know, you have someone who is being accused of pub stomping, but they are actively against that, actively removing powerful decks from the meta, which I think we've talked about with you. Maybe in this episode, I have the memory of a goldfish, or maybe we talked about it before we started recording.
It's okay. You're a scrub. It's fine.
Yeah,
They know
I
it.
am.
They already know it.
Yeah, they know I'm extremely professional. But, I feel like that's a very courteous move to build a deck and fully retire it because people aren't having fun with it. Yeah. And I think a lot of players wouldn't do that. So for that person to be getting called a pub stomper, we all have like tunnel vision at certain points in Magic games where your perception kind of overrides like the reality of the board. Like Krenko is so strong. He's about to pop off. I have to fucking do everything I can to kill it. And like, maybe that Krenko wasn't coming at you, or maybe someone else had a response in their hand that could have come up. You know what I mean? Like you don't need to play the sheriff at the table always. So I think it's salty. I don't think it's like a full shaker by any means. It feels like a little bit like half salty confessional, half salty story to me.
Yeah, well, it's like shocking salt.
Yeah,
it's like I was just shocked when I got my salt because it's like I didn't think that was me. Yeah. And then it was me. You looked in the mirror and you saw yourself, and you're like, "Fuck."
Yeah, like
did I do that? Like
someone's like, "You made me salty," and you're like, "Me?
Yeah,
what?" Me?
It's literally like maniacal yourself laughing in the mirror. Like you can't understand how you got to this place and like what's going on.
What have I done?
Yeah, my like decisions. A darkness is crawling up inside you, and it's
what
like,
brought me here.
Yeah.
It's some like Jekyll and Hyde shit going on here.
For real. Yes. That's exactly what it is. Unintended consequences.
Yep. Well, sometimes it just happens, man. Sometimes you make someone else super salty. Fuck, we know all about that in our group.
Yeah.
Like it just
sometimes happens. You make them salty, sometimes you make them cry. Like, whatever happens.
Exactly. Sometimes you push them down in the mud, take their milk money.
Yeah, note to self, never play with Vok. He's gonna fucking pub stomp me out of the game.
Yeah, this pub stomper. Oh my god. No, we're kidding, Vok. We are kidding. Well,
I'm not kidding. I won't play with you. I'm scared.
I feel like sometimes being aware of those situations, especially to this degree, like helps resolve them. So, we'll see what happens. Like worst case, you just lose. You lose a couple games to this person.
Be the change you want to see in the world, baby.
Oh man, Mike commented in this thread on our Discord, and since he's not here, I'm going to read his comment. So we have his contribution to the episode.
Love that.
If he agrees with us.
Lay it on me. It's going to be a completely different tangent than what we said.
Mike says, there's always a balance between threat assessment and going for your own win. If you feel like you routinely stop a specific player, consider just focusing on going for your own win for a few games. Doesn't have to be full on solitaire, but instead of asking, how can I stop the other players at my table from winning? You can try, how do I make sure that I can win and not die before I can? Interesting.
Are you even trying if it's like not solitaire though?
And then Vox says, I find the best way to ensure victory is player removal.
Now that's a man after my own heart right there.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, so good. All righty, let's get back into it. So I have a message here. This comes from one of our listeners, and this comes to us via a Reddit DM, and it is from Gosh Dang It to Heck. Which is just a great name. I love that. And Gosh Dang It to Heck says,
I like it more the second time you said it.
Yeah, you didn't like my first one?
No, I did like it. I just like it grew on me in between the two. I was like, Sam's really feeling this one.
I was.
So I was like, I don't know if I feel it that hard. And then you said it again. I was like, okay,
I'm coming around. It's pretty good.
You.
Gosh dang it to heck.
Yeah.
Gosh dang it to heck. Maybe you got to like really, gosh dang it to heck.
Yeah. Got to say it with some fervor.
Yeah. You know? Gosh dang it to heck.
Yeah. That's the one. That's the one.
So anyways, they say, I was recently playing a game with my friend group that I will acknowledge I probably should have been less saline about. One player was running mono white and managed to board wipe the rest of us 5 turns in a row. Fucking sorry to cut in here. Fucking that sucks.
I mean, does it? Like,
5 turns in a row of board wipes?
you don't even get anything else out. Like, what are you even playing on the other turns that they're? Why are they board wiping 5 times in a row? But
yeah,
like,
it's a little weird. Anywho, let's keep going.
Yeah.
Another player's commander and mine got too expensive to cast, and seeing this repeated pattern of draw, play creature, pass, draw, board wipe was dejecting to the point where I had stopped playing permanents after wipe 3 or so. The worst part was that I was in Dimir, and over the course of the game managed to not draw a single instant or sorcery of any kind. I got ribbed afterward, asking where my counterspells were. I understand that was my own bad luck. In hindsight, I wonder if my own frustration came from my own inability to interact during this game, rather than the consistent board wipes. Afterward, that player went through their deck, mentioning that he had put 10 board wipes in there. So how many board wipes are too many board wipes?
I just vomited in my own mouth a little bit.
Yeah, that's too much. It's funny that Mike isn't here for this episode because he's like Mr. Board Wipe. He'll probably say that 10 is fine and that he loves to play against that type of deck.
Yeah.
He's lying, folks. He does not.
Meanwhile, I'm like, 0 is probably too many. Although I've started running a couple.
Yeah, I feel like 3 to 4 is where I like to sit. I feel like 5 or 6 used to be the old golden rule. Maybe when like decks were less consistent and things were more like battle cruisery and the overall like expanse of the game, like the average player. I feel like most people play more tuned games now. And frankly, I don't think board wipes are as good anymore. When people are popping off and busting out fast wins, like single target removal is really clutch to remove enablers. And I'd rather have more of that in my deck than a single wipe.
Yeah. But no matter what, fucking 5 is way too many goddamn times. 3, like 2 in a row is too much, in my opinion. Like,
yeah,
if you board wipe and then immediately board wipe again, you're not even getting any fucking value out of it. You're just doing it to do it. Like,
totally. Like, you would be better off waiting for the table to at least like rotate twice before dropping another one. Like, let everybody play 2 more creatures instead of just 1, and then you wipe, and at least you're getting like 6 creatures, you know? Like, it's just kind of that seems like a weird play pattern.
Like, what is the deck even doing? Why do you need 10 board wipes in there? This is the kind of person I don't want to play with. If you sit down to play with me and you say, and you're honest and you're like, my deck has 10 board wipes in it, I'll be like, okay, do you have another deck? And if they say no, I'll be like, I'm sorry, I just can't.
I'd be like, do you have like a stacks deck or a mill deck I can play?
Do you
against,
literally
or
like anything else?
Do you have like a turd grid deck in that box that you can just bust out? I really don't want to play against the 10 board wipes. I just don't want to be here all day.
Yeah, I think I would take literal anything else though, for real.
Truthfully, I think, like, to answer the question, how many board wipes are too many? I mean, if there's a point in the game where you have 5 board wipes in your hand, there are too many in your deck. Because there's no point in a realistic game where board wiping that often is going to be valuable, is going to get you the return on the investment of the spell and the mana you put in a board wipe. Wrath of God is 4 mana. It's not super expensive for a full wipe, but a lot of the wipes these days, like Farewell and things like that are really powerful and versatile, are like 5 or 6 mana, you know? Yeah. And like, I'd rather drop like a fucking Sun Titan than board wipe a pseudo empty board.
It's just so, I'm so upset like for this player. Like, that is so much of what I don't like about Magic, that I just don't do this, kids. Don't run 10 board wipes. Do me a favor.
Yeah.
That's too many.
I think there are a couple spaces where running a lot of board wipes is okay. The first one is like, if you have
no friends and hate everyone and and want everyone to hate you. Yeah, you're right. That's totally the space in which I would find it to be okay.
No, I was going to say, if you're playing a deck like Zergo Helm Smasher and wiping the board is your win con, you know, like that is appropriate. Like, if you have like some huge beefy indestructible commander and like wiping the board is a way for you to get through with commander damage and eventually show a win, like, that's super valid. Other board wipe strategies I think should be like more embraced by the community are like situational asymmetrical board wipes. Like a board wipe doesn't need to hit every single creature. Honestly, if you're removing like 5 to 6 creatures, you're probably seeing a lot of return in value from that one spell.
Yeah. And like a big shift in power.
Yeah. There's this one old black sorcery that used to be in a lot of the commander precons, and a lot of people like poo-pooed it. And now I think it's actually really good looking back on it, is Hex. Hex is 6 mana and it says destroy 6 target creatures. And generally speaking, like that's all you kind of need, unless you're going against a deck that's really going wide, going crazy with tokens. Like being able to eliminate 6 creatures is like, you know, maybe that's an
6 is
austere
either
command.
Usually like a full board wipe of one person.
Yeah.
That's like a problem, or it's like remove 2 value pieces from your opponents and like,
yeah.
Or 3 from 2 of them. Like
think about like austere command, which is like every creature above 3 CMC or whatever the fuck it is. You know, like you're probably only getting half the board anyways. I think some of those more situational wipes that leave your own board preserved are better. You know, like my ideal board wipe is something that I can shape around my own board state to hurt others to some extent and not hurt myself at all, versus fully knocking out their game plan, but also knocking out my own game plan at the same moment.
For sure. Yeah. Wow. What a fucking deck. It's really getting me. Like, I really can't believe that somebody would run that many. And to your point, like, had them in hand. Like, you had all of them in hand, and then you played all of them. Like if you have 3 board wipes in hand, 2 of those are dead cards. Yeah.
You know, like there's no reason to have that many. I don't know. I mean, that just seems a little excessive to me. To gosh dang it, to Hex point, feeling a little bit salty about not drawing the instant or sorcery. I mean, that just happens, but I think you're totally justified to feel salty coming against 5 board wipes. And honestly, they had the right move. They stopped playing permanents after the 3rd board wipe. It's like, why would you? You know?
Yeah. I find it's actually interesting. Like, I guess my last comment on like the board wipe side of it, I actually think I only run like once. It's pretty rare that I'll run 2, I think, these days, but I will run 1 only in decks that I have tutors in, actually. And if I don't have tutors in a deck, I don't run it.
Interesting.
And it's mostly because like I know I can go get it, and it's like I have multiple copies of it if I have a tutor, and it's like very situational, right? It's that one card that lives somewhere, and I like find it if I need it. And then otherwise, I personally run a lot more like protect my board things, like Teferi's protection type stuff, or like heroic intervention, like my permanents get indestructible. I run more of those types of effects because I find them to be more versatile.
Yeah, I run those too.
I've said this a million times. Board wipes are usually right to play when they're played, except on the second one in the second turn.
Yeah.
But I just don't like those effects. And so if I can tutor it and I have like the right deck for it, I have it in there. But if I can't tutor it, I actually don't run them at all.
No, it's interesting you say that. Like I'm about to completely contradict what I was just saying. I've actually noticed recently in my Alesha deck, the board wipes that I do run have more often than not been dead cards in my hand. I run a couple things in that deck. I think I might have an austere command. And then I run something that kills everything with power 3 or more, because it's an Alesha deck. So generally speaking, everything's got power 2, right? But I've come into this situation where I have enough like anthems in the deck where every once in a while that card comes to my hand and it's like, oh, this is kind of useless right now. Like, it's not gonna put me in a spot where I can really wipe without like really fucking over my board. And at that point, it's like Wrath of God would be way more effective, you know?
Yeah.
And to that point, I run a lot of those indestructible effects and have a lot of things that are indestructible just in the deck. So being able to just do a hard wipe is probably better than like trying to dance around with this asymmetrical wipe. Granted, I do still generally think that asymmetrical wipes are better, but you kind of made me rethink it by, you know, if you have like a certain density of things like Teferi's protection, or Boros Charm or anything like that, Heroic Intervention, having those effects in your deck probably allows you to have more of those just like unilateral wipes, because the chances are that you can drop a wipe and protect your creatures and live through it. Now it's sort of a pseudo win con,
Yeah. The other reason I say the tutor aspect of it, though, and only having one, is because so much of the time they are dead cards in your hand and you don't want it. You only want it in like very specific scenarios, right? And so by having it indexed at tutor for things, then it's like, okay, I can get what I need when I need it. And otherwise, the likelihood of me drawing it is just not that high, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I tend to do it that way.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
As for the blue player part, blue players are trash. They can't even counter shit when you need them to counter it. Like, what the fuck? Why are they even here?
Yep. Can't even protect you from 5 board wipes in a row. What, you didn't have 5 Force of Wills in your hand?
Yeah.
Come on.
What do you think about the salt rating here?
Dude, I would be very frustrated if I came up against 5 board wipes. Are you kidding me? I would have scooped at the third one.
Yeah, for sure. I would have been like done playing Magic that night.
I'd be like, what are you doing?
I'm
dude?
over it.
I think I would have just like really questioned the judgment of my opponent, in a way that was unkind.
Yeah.
Like enough is enough,
there's
man.
salt.
Yeah,
There's salt.
I'd be full shaker with this one. Like, that sucks. That really sucks.
Love that. Well, is it that time of the week?
It is that time of the week.
It's my fucking time of the week now, boy.
It is. It's that time of the week that we look forward to every week.
Hey, hype, 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 hype.
It's the time of the week where we say, Tony, what's the salty card of the week?
What up?
Do you have one ready?
I do.
Oh, man.
I've got a spicy one ready.
Fucking professional.
It's, again, Mike curates, I random number generate.
Yeah, you just find some random jank.
I've picked one, and by picked one, Google picked one for me. And so today we have on the menu Smoke.
The salty card of the week, yeah. Sorry, what were you saying? Were you saying something?
Yes. Smoke. See, without Mike here, we'll just keep going. And then like you're like, oh, wait, what is it? I
was just waiting so I could really maximize my interruption.
It's Smoke. Red. It's an enchantment. Players can't untap more than one creature during their untap steps.
Oh, weird. It's like Winter Orb, but for creatures.
Yeah. Huh. And it may or may not be on the list for my deck.
That is a stacks piece. You were like, it's only tax pieces. That is stacks.
I know, but that's why I'm like, I'm probably not going to run it, but it was on the list. So how does this card make you feel, Sam?
It's interesting.
Note that it'll impact whether or not it makes it into my list.
I mean, I think it would make me very salty, but at the same time, I'm thinking through like my decks that I have, and I think a lot of them could play through it. Like it's frustrating. I think where it is most frustrating would be with creature ramp, mana dorks and things like that. If you have like some Llanowar elf creatures and that type of style of dork, and you're tapping like 3 or 4 of them, like now you've lost a lot of ramp by having Smoke out on the field. If you're going wide and attacking with a bunch of creatures, it's also similar. But with combat,
not if you kill that player, right?
Yeah, I mean, with combat, like you can focus down this player who runs Smoke, or you've got vigilance, you've got reconnaissance. There are all these different effects that allow you to not have to tap to attack or to do some tricks and get out of it. I think about like my combat decks that I run. Alesha has some things to get through this with like reconnaissance, but with like only untapping 1 creature per turn, fucking sweet, dude. I'm only attacking with Rafik anyways. I will untap that 1 creature per turn. Sure. So I think when you first read it, it's like, oh, fuck, like this is a bad effect. But really, it is more corner case than you think. It's not like a Winter Orb where it is universally fucking over everybody because it's hitting your main resource It's really like, how are you using creatures in your deck? And do you even need to tap them to make use of them? Like a combo deck, like, certain combo decks we run where creatures aren't tapping, who cares? Like that's not going to do much at all. But combat decks, like Nick's Giada deck is going to not like that.
For sure.
How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It depends on what your deck is doing. I have lots of decks that would be really upset to see this, and a bunch of decks that like literally wouldn't give a fuck. I think that the types of builds that you're going to see most frequently with this, in a Go deck, you're forcing everyone to attack all the time, but then also making it so that their creatures can't untap. It gets to be annoying. Because a lot of the decks that I like to build tend to be ones where it's like, I'm not really attacking a ton. And so I'm more upset if I have to swing my creatures into stuff. And then if like on top of that, I can only untap some of them on the next turn and I like can't even get the value out of them that I want to get.
Yeah.
It's a potent effect, but really mostly when it's coupled with other things. Which is
or against like the right deck,
Yeah. Which is
that's
like
interesting
kind of
with Goad because like I think I've talked about it before. I used to play a Marisi deck. I think it's still together, but I don't really run it anymore. And I need to have my creatures make contact with an opponent to goad them. And it's smoke all players. It's symmetrical.
It is. It's players can't untap more than one creature during their untap steps. Yeah.
So like with Marisi, that's kind of fucking me over because I only have so many creatures to goad my opponents with. And the other thing with goad effects, especially persistent ones, is like, I want you to be untapping all of your creatures if possible. Like if I can goad all of your creatures, I want you untapping with all of them so you can do the maximum damage to my other opponents. If you're only untapping one, maybe I'm not getting that value out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. So the some stats on it.
Yeah. Where is this? Is this in the salty list or is this truly
random?
It's
on the salty list. What do you fucking mean? Just
all right,
shooting my shot into the dark of like
I don't know, man. I don't know your system. I'm guessing. I'm gonna say this is 57.
Interesting. Final guess.
Yeah.
You're trash. It's 79, baby.
What? Wow, really?
79.
I thought it would be
Google
higher.
overlords declared that it'd be 79, and that's where it lands.
And Google is the best card search engine, isn't it? So much better than Scryfall.
I mean, obviously, like who even use like what is Scryfall? Like
Mike is hearing this episode and just crying.
Cringing.
Yeah, I can't wait to see his editing notes where he'll be so mad.
Honestly, I think the best thing about this card is it's like kind of wonky art. It's like
I have to look it up.
This dude, like I can't tell if I think he's generating lightning, which is then generating smoke. Is what it kind of looks like that, or he just got struck by lightning and there's smoke like around him. So it's like kind of like some weird janky stuff, but also looks like he like either jumped like anime style up real high or is like maybe flying because it's got like some like fly lines, as I'll call them, like, or at least I think.
There's a bunch of different versions, and by a bunch I mean two.
Oh, there's only one real version.
Oh yeah, like what is happening in that art?
Yeah, I'm like, what's going on? But it looks kind of cool and like mysterious. But I don't
like
really
a little
get
pointy
smoke
hat
from
on.
it. Yeah,
like a little pointy gnome hat.
Yes. So that's it. That's the salted card, baby.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I could see this being good in the right deck. If you don't really give a shit about tapping, I mean, it becomes pretty good. It's interesting. I wonder if this has any like CDH implications of like shutting down dorks and stuff like that. It's probably not good enough.
I think that's the problem with it, that it's not good enough.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of those CDH decks, even if it like you're like whatever, I tapped the Leonard War Elves this turn. It would hurt like Selvala probably the most, which is S tier. So like everyone should start running it. But I think outside of that, like a lot of them are more the super dorks. And if they're running super dorks, a lot of times they've got other untapped shenanigans stuff going on. And so like, and even if you're only untapping your one super dork, you're still like, fine, I still have my one super dork. Like it won't impact them enough, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't seem like that big of an impact.
Like, why run that instead of Cursed Totem or whatever? Is that the thing that like cuts off all abilities?
Yeah, exactly. Like if you really want to
Just like
stop creature dorks, you just run Cursed Totem.
Yeah, which is also colorless mana. Like there's just like there's better options. Is
2
what
red pips for smoke is a little heavy of a cost.
Yeah, I bet there's some version of a Goto deck somewhere in the world that like maybe ran this at some point in time. But
yeah, I mean, truthfully, after talking about it, I don't think it'd be that bad to face. I think it'd be like inconvenient, but not like game breaking.
Yeah, not oppressive, not game breaking. Like,
unless you had a deck that really needed to go wide. But even then, you could just wait until the right moment and then swing out with all your shit. Like if you're swinging out every single turn, well, you have to shift your strategy. But if you just need one big turn with like a Crater Hoof, like you just wait and your creatures are still untapped, you know?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, thanks, Tony.
Hey.
That was a lovely salty card.
Thank you.
And thank you, listeners, our prospectors out there, for tuning in to another episode of the Howling Salt Mine. If you want more Howling Salt Mine content, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Howling Salt Mine. We have 2 tiers. You can get in at the $3 and get access to our Discord and that warm, fuzzy feeling in your heart that you are supporting a podcast you love, or come in at the $7 tier and become a member of our Salt Council, where we, pose questions about like the growth of the podcast, merchandise, stuff like that. And you also get access to additional episodes every single month. And, we have a lot of goals with Patreon, and we're just doing this podcast really as a hobby. So having all of that stuff helps cover our expenses, helps improve the quality of the podcast, and helps us reach some of our long-term goals with the growth of the podcast. If you want to have one of your questions, one of your salty stories, or one of your salty confessionals featured on a future episode, shoot us a message, a DM, or an email. You can hit us up on any of our social media. We're at The Howling Salt Mine on both Instagram and Reddit. We are at Howling Salt Mine on Twitter. We couldn't get the THE. And our Gmail is thehowlingsaltmine@gmail.com. As always, we ask you to keep those stories short, sweet, and to the salt. We love to have a backlog of episodes. Fill us up as much as you can. If you got a funny moment that happens during a game, just like take some notes in your phone or something like that and shoot it over to us later on. We love to read them, and we love to read them on the show.
And nothing's better than like fresh recorded salt.
It's the best when you're like really angry in the moment. It's
in that moment, then and there, you let your rage fly, and it's nice.
Let it flow through you. And lastly, if you still want to support us, but you're unable to join the Patreon right now, one of the best things you can do is give us a 5-star rating in whatever podcast app you're listening in. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever. 5-star reviews make your podcast more visible, so people can actually find us in the wild. And lastly, got to give a shout out to our amazing podcast artist, JD Burnett. If you are ever in Asheville, North Carolina, go hit up Devin Burnett and get a tattoo from this guy. He's a fantastic artist, blessed us with this beautiful art, and he's just a cool all-around dude.
Hell yeah.
As always, stay salty, and don't forget to draw an additional card during your draw step.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
And the post title is Understanding Players.
You're not going to upvote them?
Oh, yeah. And
Fuck
if you
that
guys
user.
see,
Fuck them. If you see them, fuck them.
you see them, fucking report them and get them banned. Hold on, my computer's being weird.
Trash.
Dude, it is. It's like nearing trash status. when the Zoom camera wasn't working, I was like, oh my God, is this the day that the computer stops working? It was like overheating too. It's like, holy shit.
Oh, damn,
boy. Die. If you guys want to have, let me say that again.
If you guys want to have, if you want this, excuse me, if you want to have some fun on our Patreon, please come simp us. Simp us hard, please. Thank you.
Yeah, please simp us on our Patreon.
If you're not, we're gonna kick you out.
No. Am I gonna burp?
Oh no. Am I? Does anyone comment and it's like this is gross? Or
No
are
one
people
ever
like
does.
this is funny?
No one ever comments about the burps.
Does anyone comment
now
about
they will.
anything? Like I feel like
No, people just love
the real.
They think they're funny. They love it. The only comment we ever got about like a blooper was somebody saying was a bunch of people talking about how we called them crusty dicklings. That one episode,
Dude,
we were like, what do we call our
bring back
fans?
crusty dicklings?
We were like prospectors, fucking cocksuckers, crusty dicklings.
I'm bringing it back. I'm gonna find a way to slip it back into every episode.
I feel like we have all these inside jokes and we like fail to repeat them.
Yeah,
like even prospectors, I'm bad at saying. You know,
yeah.
I need like a page up that just has like funny jokes we've mentioned.
Oh, you mean like an outline or something? Like
just like a vision
reminder
board
page
that has like reminders on it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we need at the Howling Salt Mine, a fucking vision board.